Our Father's plan is about families, symbolized by a great tree. In order for a tree to live and grow, it needs both roots and branches. We likewise need to be connected both to our roots, our parents, grandparents, and other ancestors, and to our branches, our children, grandchildren, and other descendants. My wife, Mary, and family are so important to me that I'm not sure that there would be joy and an eternal life without them. Family history is a family affair, but not everyone has the same situation. Many of our ancestors died without being married or having children. Some were divorced, some married several times. Many had children who were disabled or died young. Everyone has a story.
When I was 8 years old, my parents separated. They filed for divorce. And with our mother, we went to live with our grandmother. I had feelings of insecurity. And I thought when my parents were separated that our family would never be an eternal family. But I had special spiritual experiences. And I felt that the Savior knew me and that I was important to Him. I recognized the power of the Holy Ghost in my life. And after 2 years, my parents reconciled and we were reunited as a family, but many of the issues remained. Many years later, when I was a wife and mother myself, my parents did go to the temple and were sealed, and I was able to be sealed to them. We are linked together through this wonderful sealing power. This is one of the incredible blessings of family history. It isn't about the things that are perfect. It's about the trials and tribulations that we go through and overcome. We can all record our history. We can search for our loved ones, and we can upload their stories and pictures to Family Tree. We can all do the temple work. We are all part of a family.
Regardless of whether you are single, whether your spouse is less active, or whether you yourself are less active, or even a member of this church, you too can assist in the salvation of souls. There can be no more important, fulfilling, or glorious work. Let me emphasize with you the find, take, teach process. By find, we mean to use the FamilySearch.org website or the family booklet, My Family Stories That Bring Us Together, to find the name of one or more of our ancestors or their descendants. Then take these names to the temple or share them with others so they can take them. When possible, go to the temple as a family. Finally, teach our families this process, and then teach others to do the same. As an apostle of the Lord Jesus Christ, I leave my blessing upon you with a promise that if you look beyond the bonds of time and mortality and help those who cannot help themselves, you will be blessed with more closeness and joy in your family and with the divine protections afforded those who are faithful in His service.
What's your story? It's an important question. Why? Because you're part of a much bigger story that stretches back through history, connecting to hundreds of fascinating lives and events that come together in the person you see in the mirror every morning. That makes it a story worth exploring. It can teach you about who you are, where you belong, and who you might become. That's why Family Search has spent more than 100 years building the world's largest free network of people, facilities, and online resources dedicated to helping you find your family history stories. How does Family Search do it? You could say it all starts with the world's biggest treasure hunt. We work non-stop with governments, religious archives, and other organizations in more than 100 countries trying to dig up family history records that we can collect and preserve. And we've been doing that for a very long time, since 1894 to be exact. And we found some amazing treasures along the way. Family Search has managed to build a library of more than 3.3 billion records. That's well over 12 billion names. By far the largest collection of family history names in the world. Now, we couldn't take all of our newly discovered treasure and just stuff it into a giant file cabinet. Like with any treasure, we take steps to preserve it. For family history records, this means creating a high-quality image of each record. This used to be done on microfilm, a lot of it, 2.4 million rolls. But today, it's done with the latest digital technology. And Family Search goes to great lengths to keep these records safe and protected. We store them in a climate-controlled mountain vault in Utah called the Granite Mountain Records Vault. But just because they're locked in a vault doesn't mean you can't get to them. Remember, this is about you finding your story. Family Search opens their record scans to over 150,000 volunteer indexers who document the information on the records and make it searchable and accessible to people searching for their family history. So far, they've been able to make more than 1 billion names available on a fully searchable database. Why is that so great? Because it means people just like you can get online at FamilySearch.org and search through a massive library to find their family names. And more than 150 million people have done just that since it was started in 1999. Of course, that's only the beginning of how Family Search can help you find your story. We have more than 4,600 Family Search centers located in 70 countries around the world, staffed with expert volunteers waiting to help you. Or if you ever make it to Salt Lake City, you can stop by the Family History Library. These resources are all free and available for you to use almost any time. So what's your story? Can Family Search help you find it? That's what we do after all. Gather, preserve, and share the world's largest collection of family history records. And we're convinced there are treasures to be found when you build those connections to your family, your history, your story. But don't take our word for it. Start your own treasure hunt today. Learn more at FamilySearch.org.
In this segment, we're going to discuss how to create an account. The first thing you're going to do is go to FamilySearch.org and then create an account. You're going to fill out the information with your name. You're going to select a username and a password. Make sure to follow what you need to do here to create that. Email, contact name, your gender, the country. Are you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Yes or no? And I agree, and create the account. It's going to send you an email that you will have to verify your account on that just simply says, yes, this is me, for security reasons. And that's how to create an account. In this session, we're going to discuss changing settings inside the program. You need to sign in to be able to do that. Now, notice here that you can stay signed in for 2 weeks. I don't recommend doing that on a public computer because if you stay signed in and someone else goes in, your account may be up and someone can change your account. So I don't mark that unless I'm at home on my home computer. So let's go ahead and sign in. When I get signed in, I will find settings under my name right here. I'm going to go to a different version of the program because right now in the test version I'm in, settings does not work. So I'm just going to click here. I'm going to go to settings. Now to change my username, I simply click change it to whatever I want. Save Changes. And you'll notice it's changed. I'm going to change that back. Change your password. You change here, current password, new password, confirm the password. Preferred language, we can change to any of the languages here. That's your display language that you will get emails in, etc. That doesn't necessarily mean your program is going to come up in that language. Your contact name is the name that's going to be displayed that people will see you by. Change it to something, hit enter, it will go ahead and change it. Now if I change it to something that's already being used in another account, for example, I click enter, and it says your contact name is already being used. And since I'm in a fake account right now, it knows that that name is being used. Now, my full name, I could make public, and then my contact name wouldn't necessarily have to be showing. Email I could make public. I can also change my email. Hit enter. It changes the email, the phone number. You can change anything here that you would like to change. I would highly recommend making at least your email public so that people can get a hold of you when you make a change or when you do something or submit something. A lot of people have made it so that no one can contact them, and their contact name isn't even something that people would know. They call themselves Chief or Indian or Flowerhead, or I've seen all kinds of things, making themselves totally anonymous to the world. Your helper access number, if you have an LDS account, is the last 5 digits of your membership number, unless you change that. For someone to access your account, they need to be able to have that helper number and be able to have the contact name. To change your location, you simply click on it. And that should be able to change that. Notifications, weekly email updates to ancestors I'm watching, LDS Family History Consultant, Family Search General, Family Tree, indexing, any of those things you would like to be emailed about, then you ought to check so that you get a weekly email. And that's how to change the settings inside of your account. So as long as the person you're helping or you remember your username and password, you can get into your settings and change whatever you would like to change. Then when you're through, simply click back on Family Tree, get back in the program, and you are done.
The next thing I'm going to show is essentially what you do when you start. So if you're a member of the church, when you log in the first time, you're going to see probably yourself and your spouse. In this case, I'm assuming that you are John Doe Reddington, your spouse is Nancy Jo Tester, and that your parents are members of the church. If that's true, you would see something like this. You would not see your spouse's parents because in this example, they're still living. So to see them, we would need to add her father and mother. So you would need to have that information. So I'm adding the name, and in this case, they're still living. And I'm going to add a birth date. And a birthplace. And hit next. Now in this case there's going to be no match because they're still living, and you won't ever get a match on a living person. So at this point we have her father in there. We're going to now add her mother. So we're going to do the same thing as we did before. Now, because they are still living, we're still not going to see a tie-in to anybody that might be in Family Search. So I'm going to have to add one more generation. The purpose of all this is to tie into some people who are deceased. So I'm now going to add his father and mother. So I do that the same way that I just showed you. So I'm going to put in the name, and in this case I would put in his exact birth date if I had that. So I put in this case, I'll just put in the year and the birthplace, and I'm going to then also put in the year of death, and then it's going to search through and see if it can find anybody like that. So in this case it found a couple, which is the correct couple. So I just click add couple, and that will add both his father and his mother. Now, because they are deceased and their ancestors are already loaded in, you now see an arrow on the right. So if you click that, you'll see that it then ties into other people that are already in Family Search. So that is what you're trying to do. Now, if it happens that you have no ancestors that are already in Family Search, you would essentially have to keep on adding whatever information that you had to populate your family tree. Now you can see at this point, the way I happen to do this, ultimately the husband and wife are tied back to the same family, but I just did that so it would all tie in together. I want to show you one more thing at this point. You note in the yellow box, it essentially says that for living people, only you can see their information if you've input the information on that living person. So if that person at some point dies, at that point there will be two versions of that person, one that you did and then the official church records. So if they died, you would go in and edit it to show the date of death and to show that they're deceased and the place of death. So at this point, there's going to be two records for the same person in Family Search. So what you need to do is you need to combine the duplicates. So you go down and click on possible duplicates, and at that point you'll see your record and then you'll see the official church record. And in this case, one of them has more information, so I'm going to move that over when I do the combining. And then I merge. And at this point, there will be a single record for this person. Now, if multiple people generated essentially fake records for a living person, each one of those would have to be combined also with the one true church record. In this example, I'm going to show how you would add your family tree using sources. So in this example, I'm assuming that your father or grandfather is Herbert Donald Smith. You have his birth and death information, and you also know that his parents were Herbert and Moselle. So I'm going to click on Search Records, and that brings up a number of potential sources to look at. Now notice one of them in the 1940 census, a father is Herbert and the mother is Moselle. So that looks like a good possibility. So I'm going to click on his name to open up that census record. So this brings up the census record, and I can look at that and I see it as his father and his mother, and it has their birthplaces and their ages, so I can get their approximate birth years from that. So I'm going to click on Attach to Family Tree, and if it's not obvious, it's going to give me a couple of choices as to, what person I'm going to attach this to. So then I'm next going to click Add to move some of the information from the census record into the record in Family Search. I'm adding a reason why I'm attaching, and then I'll actually click on Attach to attach the record to him. So the next thing I'm going to do is attach his parents. To do that, I first have to add them to the family tree. So I click on Add, and in this case, I'm going to just use the information that's in the census. So it gives me his birth date and birthplace. At this point, I don't have anything telling me whether he's living or deceased. So I'm going to choose living just to be safe. And then I do the same thing as I did with him, move the information from the census over and then attach it. And then I'm going to go through the same thing for his mother, Moselle. And add the information from the census. And then I'm going to add his sister, who is also living. And for some reason, it does really add it, but it doesn't show up on this page here. So at this point, I'm still showing that he and his wife are living. So I decide to look on Ancestry to see if I can find any additional information. So I put in the information that I have, and searching on Ancestry.com, I find a grave entry for, it looks like, Herbert, and also shows Moselle as being his wife. So that's probably good information, and that gives me his exact birth date and also an exact death date. So I'm now going to go back to Herbert, and I'm going to enter the information that I found on Find a Grave. So the more information I put in, the better job it will do when it does searches. So here I'm entering his exact birth date and just putting that I found it on Find a Grave. And then I'm going to do the same thing for his death date. So if you are a member of the church, you also have access to free membership to Ancestry.com, as well as a number of other resources to use for looking for your ancestors. So I'm now going back to Find a Grave, and I'm going to go to the actual website, and there I see that there's also an entry for his wife. So I'm going to go there, and there I find her exact birth date and death dates. So now I'm going to take that information and enter it into Family Search. as I did with her husband, I'm going to go down and edit. I'm going to change the birth date to be the exact date that I know, and put that I found it on Find a Grave. Save that, and then I go down and change the person to being deceased and enter the death information there. So at this point, I'm going to go back to her husband, Herbert. So I'm going to click on his name. And then I'm going to do a search and see what information I can find on the family. So in this case, I find the 1940 entry that I saw before, but I also see a 1921. It's in the same location, and the birth date looks pretty close. So this looks like I've found Herbert's father and mother and their approximate birth information. So I'm going to click Add that to Family Tree, and I pick that Herbert and Smith is who I'm attaching. And now I'm going to essentially do the same thing that I had done previously with his son. So I add the individual, and then I'm going to add the parents. In this case, because they were born so long ago, I'm going to show them both being deceased. So clicking Add adds them to the family tree, and then after that I attach the census as being a source of the information to their records. Now I'm going to do the same thing for his mother. So at this point I now have Herbert and his father and mother into the family tree. So one other thing that you can see here, there's a little green icon that if you zoom in, it kind of shows an icon of the temple. If I click on that, that shows that there's temple work that can be done for this individual. And this shows what's available. And if you clicked on Request Ordinances, you could be able to print out the information that you would take the temple to allow you to do the work. So this was just a very short example showing you how you would add to your family tree using sources. So now I've gone back to the original individual, Herbert Donald Smith, and I'm going to click on View Tree. And now you can see what we've done. We started with the single person, we added his parents, and then we added his grandparents, all from sources that we found on Family Search with some additional information from Ancestry.com.
In this segment, I want to talk about the traditional view and how to navigate. We have some little arrows here. It'll move the tree. Just keep clicking your mouse up If I click in the center, it'll always move it back. Click in that center. I can make it bigger. Click in the center. Changes it back to what it was originally. Make it smaller. Click in the center. Changes it back. I personally like to just drag this way. Just left click on my mouse and pull it around wherever I want. To extend the tree, I click here, and I can expand it as far as I want. If I want to expand the tree here, then it does away with this. If I click here, it does away with that. Now if I want to click on Henry Moroni and click tree, then it puts him in the main position. Now I can extend his line this way, or I can extend these lines this way. Same thing if I click here. I can put him here. This is called the bow tie, because now I can extend it as far this way as you want, and I can extend it as far this way as I want. So by expanding the tree both directions, I can see a lot coming from Henry Moon. Now I can go back to history and go back to me. This is my starting position. If I want to print the tree, I can click here, and it will open another window and print me a family tree this way. If you go to your name, you can click on settings. In the settings, you can change your settings. You can allow people to see what you have submitted and give user information so that other people can contact you. That is extremely important to do that. I'm going to extend the tree this way, or expand it. Right here we see in progress. Here we see ordinances complete. I will pause for a minute to see if I can find some of the other symbols on the tree. Here we see needs more information. And here we see request ordinances. I'm now going to go back to Henry Moroni Moon. And then I'm going to go to John Thomas. And we see here that it shows multiple wives. On this one, it also shows multiple wives. And here we can see all of the children. If I change wives, I click tree, then I can see all of the children of the other wife. Here I can see all husbands. Here is all wives. I'm going to pause for just a minute while I look for a double set of parents. Okay, this one shows two sets of parents. This one looks like the same as this one, but this one looks definitely different. So in these situations, you would have to do more research to determine who the right parent is. If I click on this parent, then it'll go to that one. We went to this one. Click on Johann, goes to Johann. So that's how you switch between multiple parents. You need to get on your own account and see how many of these things you can find. In progress, needs more information. There's a lot of in progress here. You need to see if you can find multiple husbands, multiple wives, multiple parents, as many things as you can find. Navigate your own tree. Become familiar with extending lines. Become familiar with clicking on an individual, clicking tree, putting them in the main position, and extending both directions on the tree. Practice switching between husbands and wives. You do that by clicking tree, and just practice navigating.
In this segment, I want to talk about navigating the person details page. Click on the individual. You see a summary card here. And this is a link here on the summary card. You can drag across and see the temple ordinances here. You can actually go to sources, memories, discussions. All of these items are on the details. So let's click here on person. We can see all the different portraits inside. Now, something that's extremely important is that you print out the reading assignment or the activity for this page, and you do the activity. Watching a video is not doing. So do the activity so you get all of the parts of the page down. We've discussed these menus. We have not discussed memories. This goes through photos. I can click more. Documents and stories, audio. Now I can click close and close that section, or I can keep it open. I like to keep my sections open. Ordinances, show all the temple ordinances. Back to the details page. Life sketch is a short sketch. Vital information, have a name, gender, birth, christening. LDS blessing is not a christening. A christening is done in another church. It's the information about their being. It might be the only thing there is because they don't have birth records. Death and burial. I can close this section. Again, I like to keep my sections open. Other information are names, nicknames, alternate names, birth names. We'll talk more about this later. Anything that is placed here is searchable. And then we have the family members section. I can hide all, show all. So it hides and shows my children. Again, I like to keep my sections open. I can add a spouse. I can see my children here. I can see edit parents, and I can view relationships inside here about the parents. I can edit couple. I can see the relationship about the couple here. Now, this Henry Moroni is a parent in this screen. He's a child in this screen. If I click on Maggie Bell Richardson and put her in the position, she's now a parent here and a child here. So that's the way it works. If I bring John Thornton over here by clicking person, he becomes a parent in this side and a child on this side. So his brothers and sisters are parents, and then he is a parent and a child. Now let's use the history to go back to Henry Moroni. So the family members section, we can add an unknown mother. We have the sources. We can create a source, attach a source. All the LDS sources, these are sources I have put in. I have show a memory book. These are sources that came from Family Tree. We'll discuss that later. And then discussions, if you want to get on, try to get everybody to comment about something, kind of a social networking thing, or special notes to describe something about the person down here. On this side, we have record hints. These are sources that the computer has found that you may want to put on your individual. This is about the children. It's an obituary. And this is about the child Edith and the child Donald. The obituary I already have there, so I don't want to attach it. So it's good to review them to see what's there. Back to my person. Research helps. Search this and will help find records that the hints haven't found. I can print here. We've discussed printing. Latest changes shows all of the changes that have been made. A story detached, a story attached, a story attached. And I can show all, and I can see those. That'll be discussed later also. Tools is possible duplicates, to find duplicates of my people. Report abuse if somebody's put something that's offensive in here. Delete a person. Delete a person gets rid of them permanently in this section. That's not the same as delete relationship. Delete relationship, people are still there. But when I delete a person, they're gone. And we'll show more about this delete relationships and everything later. So that's all of this side of the section. So that's the basic understanding inside the person details page. There's one more thing we need here, and that's help others. If you have a username, a helper number, or you can go full name, last name, birth date, helper number, then you can sign on to help someone else. And you use this if you're helping someone with their research, helping somebody in the library. You don't want to use your own account to add sources for them or to make changes, because then your name is placed on as doing those changes. In this segment, I'm going to talk about the descendancy view. Now, there are a lot of things in the reading material that will not be in the movie. So be certain you do the reading on this either after the movie or before the movie. To expand this view, you simply click Expand, choose who you want to expand to. I'm going to go this one. And it expands outward. And I can expand again. And let's select this one. Now, if I want to expand generations outward, because I'm only on a single line, I have two things I can do. Notice this arrow is down. If I want to make this arrow down, it'll expand that line. I can do that automatically for 4 generations by clicking here. It is now expanded out as far as it can. I'm not far enough back to get 4 generations on a lot of these, but it expanded them downward. Here's one I can expand downward. There's another one. Another one. So you can click these arrows and expand. Now if you have more than one child, you want to start at the bottom. It just did what I said it was going to do. It's going to go out from under you. Start at the bottom and go towards the top. So like in this large group here, I start at the bottom and go to the top to expand. That way it doesn't expand out from under you. Now in this particular view, there are a lot of icons. Temple work to be done. So if I click here, it just says request ordinances. This person was born after 1903, so you have to have permission. Click here, record hints, all those sources. Click here, research suggestions. Another research suggestion. Here is a data problem, married before 12. Here, temple work is in progress. So there's a lot of icons out here that can be extremely useful. And a lot of sourcing can be done, and temple work can be found from this section. The thing that's important to remember is this up here expands directly out and start from the bottom to the top. And look at this information out here for useful information about the family. And this is the descendancy view. And from the top you can expand and go farther back and click the line you want to expand on. Then it expands that line outward as well. So you can have fun with this descendancy view. And this person needs more information before temple work can be done. So a lot of things can be found out just from these icons.